Well, you're exactly right. And they will unite everything together, using this as the final straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Because after they've been escalated inflation over a 2-year period, after they basically have buried the dollar, because now OPEC's not going to use it anymore, they're going to use a basket.
And then if you
currency.
protest, they're going to use the Enemy Sedition Act saying we're at war, you can't protest the carbon tax and the citizen tattletales, and they'll stage terror attacks and say the foreigners are doing it. This is their plan.
Yes, that's exactly their plan. And everything that you have said, Alex, is true. Oh, my goodness. I wish I could open up the mind of every one of your audience out there and put into them what you are saying is true, folks. This is not just some alarmist out here. These are facts, and this gentleman just days ago backed up everything that you are saying, Alex. It's so amazing how that he basically said exactly what you said. But then I noticed on yesterday that something really kind of caught your ear. It was the expression that this man used, devil's Messiah. And by the way, we've had a number of phone calls to come into our 800 service or our toll-free service, and they are fascinated with the idea that this man would use such an expression as devil's Messiah.
Well, give us the data dump. Tell us specifically what he said. You've got the floor. Tell us.
Yeah, let me clarify just a little bit. He's not talking about a man. He's not talking about the Antichrist. No, I'm not one of those people at all. This isn't what this man was talking about. This man was talking about a system, a spirit of deception that they have used over a period of years, and he went back and gave some things that I was appalled that he would give. In fact, I'm even wondering where this man that gave me this information, if maybe he hasn't had some change of heart as far as his...
Well, specifically, word for word, tell us what he said.
Yeah, he said that the elite have taken away America's God. Now, here's what I did. I went back, and I have it right here in my hand right now, the first textbook. I mean, this is how far this man went back and started enumerating. The first textbook ever used by a school in the United States of America was the original McGuffey's Reader. And the McGuffey Reader was written, and the first schools in America that were ever held were established for the purpose of teaching people how to read, teaching them how to read so that they could read the Bible. And listen to just one section here out of the McGuffey Reader. And this is the first textbook, by the way, of the American school. I wish we had it back again today. It says, "Oh, my God, do not allow me to sin. Help me to do as I was told." This is on page 54 of the original McGuffey Reader. He says, "Let me do unto others as I would have them do unto me." Our God can see all we do. God has an ear to all we say. Let all I do be fit for his eye. And it goes on and on and on. He said we had to remove, listen to this, folks, we had to remove the God of America before they could ever conquer the Republic. And then go back and look at Webster's Dictionary. I have a picture of this in my new DVD. Webster's Dictionary, the original Webster's Dictionary was written for the purpose of preserving the language of the Scriptures so that the Bible would always have the same meaning regardless of how much time might change the way the people use the words. And I have a reproduction of the original Webster's Dictionary, big, huge book, written for the purpose of maintaining the language of the Scriptures. They had to remove all of this. They had to take away America's God, the devil's Messiah. And actually, when he spoke of the devil's Messiah, he was talking about the system of what they have done in order to remove all righteousness, decency, and honesty from the government and from the political system of the United States of America. Then he went into the schools. Oh, my goodness, evolution. We talked about the subject of evolution. He said, basically, what they've done is they've caused human beings to think that there's nothing but evolutionized animals so that they will act like them. And that's exactly what they're acting like out there on the streets now. Then he went into the churches. Alex, I wish you could have heard this conversation between the two of us. He went into the churches. He went back and talked about 501c3. Now, I remember this well. I was a pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Hollywood, Florida, at the time of 1964, when the government came in and said, we would like for you to accept a 501c3 organizational status so that we can grant all of your parishioners who give money to your church a tax deduction for them. They asked. They said, we'd like to ask you if you'd be willing to do this. Then, about 1966 and 67, they required it. I never took it. As a pastor, I said, this is a trap. There's no way in this world I'm going to accept this. This was a part of the plan of the elite. They had to remove God from the schools, from education. They entered evolution so that humans think they're evolutionized animals. Then they came over to the churches and deceived the pastors in 1964 and 65 with 501c3. By the way, folks, please, you've heard this expression, separation of church and state. I challenge you right now to go and read the Constitution of the United States of America, and you tell me anywhere in that document that the expression separation of church and state is used.
We'll continue with how you talked about how they're federalizing the churches, having them fill out dossiers on their members straight ahead, and then get into other areas in the notes you made that we haven't even covered yet. Lindsey Williams, stay with us.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
Okay, Lindsey, short segment, long segment coming up. I need to, okay, so you said taking over the churches, because even if you don't believe in Christ or Christianity or even Buddha or Muhammad or any of that, they're attacking all of those, but especially Christianity, because if you don't owe allegiance to a God, you'll owe it to a state. Or if you don't owe allegiance to your family, you'll owe it to the state. They're wrecking anything that they don't control. But using the churches, as you said, with the clergy response teams, finish up with that. Let's get into the chronology and other things he said, because we didn't get to all of it yesterday.
Alex, I'm going to save until Friday the subject of money. Now, I haven't even touched on it. I didn't touch on it yesterday. I am dealing with another subject today, and I'm so glad you're going to take calls at the end of the program. Everybody in the listening audience, I'm warning you right now, please be here on Friday. I have not even told you anything about the money side of this whole situation, and the most sensitive part of anybody's anatomy is a real pocket. Now, on Friday, I will take the entire 1-hour program that Alex is allowing me to be on with him, and I'm going to talk about nothing but what this man said to me about money. I am going to give you a chronological order. Now, please understand this, and if you have any trouble with this word, look it up. I know it's a big one. I'm going to give a schedule of events in chronological order over the next 2 years of what you can expect in relation to your money, your 501s, all of these retirement programs, everything else imaginable. We did get into this subject, and so now I'm going to go back to this, but I just thought I needed to say that.
And by the way, I was wrong. You're on at noon Central. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you're on the program today, please, you will want to be back here on Friday.
Okay, let's cover all the other areas. There's a lot we haven't covered. Finish up with the church takeover, and then let's go to the other issues.
Find somewhere in your Constitution, anywhere you can. You read it from end to end. You need to read it anyway. See if you can find the word separation of church and state. Now, one of the first things I learned when I lived with the elite back at Prudhoe years ago and had an opportunity to sit across the dinner table from these people, sit in their board meetings, one of the things I learned was listen to their buzzwords. Nowhere in the Constitution of the United States of America will you find the expression separation between or separation of church and state. It is a buzzword. They've planted it in your mind. They've caused the pastors to think. You see, in the Constitution and in the writings of our founding fathers, the state was ordered not to get involved with the church. The state was told to quit meddling, never meddle with the church. But the church was allowed to meddle in the state all they wanted to. Pastors used to preach electoral sermons. They talked about candidates. You can't do that today. Your hands are bound. You are literally tied.
The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That means no jurisdiction for government.
And how long are you pastors going to sit out there and be pansies? Now, please forgive me. I've been a pastor for 50 years or a minister of some type for 50 years' time. And I'm a graduate of a good Christian Bible college in college. Folks, please, get off your duff. Pastors, you ought to be preaching electoral sermons. You ought to be talking about prostitution. You ought to be talking about what's happening to our republic. You ought to be out there learning and teaching courses on the Constitution in your church. If you don't, Homeland Security has you right where they want you. You are under their finger. And whenever you attend one of these Homeland Security meetings and they suggest to you that you should need to go and get all this information from your churches, don't you realize that they are going to use this to the destruction of your church members whenever they get ready to perform what they want to do in pulling the strings 2 years from now? Pastors, you are getting set up. You literally are being used as pawns. This man went into this separation of church and state. There is no such thing. In fact, the state ought to stay out of the church. You have no business having a 501c3. In fact, you should be meddling in the state.